Today I'm going to show you how to field strip your Savage MK2, or in this case its predecessor, which is fairly similar, back when the company still was called Lakefield Mark II. And this is a very nice little bolt action chambered in 22 long rifle. And as always, the first step is you want to remove the magazine, check that the mag is empty, and we're gonna put the bolt backwards position, check that the chamber is empty, there's nothing on the bolt face, no magazine in there, so now we know we have an unloaded firearm. And now we can start with the disassembly process. So the first step with mostly all bolt actions you will encounter is to put the bolt backwards, and what you now can do is just pull the trigger. We know it's unloaded, it won't fire in this position, so we're safe. Pull the trigger and then you can just keep moving the bolt backwards and out of the rifle. And this is actually the most basic field strip you can do. Now you have access to the barrel, you can clean the barrel, you can check the bolt, and you can clean the bolt face too. And that's all you need to do for a 22 in most cases. But I'm gonna show you how to further take it apart to do a thorough cleaning. So I'm gonna start by separating the stock from the barrel and trigger control group. And for this, there's multiple screws down here, and this will be the same procedure for your Savage. They have the basic same layout. So this screw here is just to hold the trigger guard and this little back plate to the stock, but what we're looking for is the big screw, so that's what holds those two pieces together. And we're just going to unscrew this guy. Okay, there we go. So rather long screw, and now we can carefully lift the stock out of the whole rifle. We don't have to remove the trigger guard because now we already have access to the mag well and the trigger assembly. And to remove those two parts, it's easy. We're gonna remove those two screws in the middle here, and this is actually the part that holds these two components together, and it is extended here. Not sure if that's visible in here. That's the extractor. That is one part with this visible part here. So I'm going to remove those two screws. As you can see, those screws have seen quite some stuff. I bought this rifle secondhand, so the previous owner didn't really take care of it. I can't tell you how dirty this thing was when I got it. I'll put some pictures up. So got a thorough cleaning before. So now this part is kind of moving here. So the next part is going to be to remove this screw. And this is actually where you attach the stock to the rest of the rifle, but it doubles as a screw. So you kind of open this guy like this, and what you now can do is lift the mag well out of the whole thing, and magazine release is just kind of stuck in here, so it comes right out. Now we can remove the plate slash extractor, and the next step is going to be to remove the trigger, and there's a screw here. And when we're at it, this thing was stuck so bad I couldn't actually remove it. I used the wrench, and even the lever didn't give me enough power. So what I can highly recommend is, if you have a screw that is stuck and you can't drill it out, because you probably won't find a replacement part that easy, is I got this power ice rust dissolver, and it kind of freezes the metal, and just the temperature difference makes the metal kind of shrink tiny bit, which helps to helps that the rust that is in there kind of starts crumbling, because now the metal is smaller and there's suddenly more space. So I can highly recommend that. The first time I had to use something like this, but hey, it paid out. And as you can see, actually I slipped on the screw once and it kind of hurt it, but it's actually pretty well made, good metal, so it didn't break on me, thankfully. So you're going to remove this part, and now you can see the whole safety and trigger mechanism comes out. And this is one of the big differences, despite like the screw layout, to the Savage MK2, is that it doesn't have the Accu trigger. But in my opinion, this is actually a fairly nice trigger. As you can see, really feels really well. I don't have this Accu trigger next to me, but I shot with them. Actually, I prefer the old one. Has a cool name like Accu trigger, but works really nice for a 22. And now you actually have access to the whole receiver. Let's say here, you can give it a thorough scrubbing, get the grime out of there. But to be honest, a 22 won't be that dirty. But obviously, as the previous owner didn't clean this rifle for like let's say 20 years, there was really a lot of gunk. So if you have to do it once every 5 years, do yourself a favor, take care of your rifle, and it will thank you later on. So for any further disassembly of the trigger group, I do not recommend it. There's these little pins with C-clamps here. If you really have to, I guess go for it, but here you can get access to everything. You can clean it, scrub it down, get some cleaning solvent in there, and you'll be fine. There's no real reason to take apart this finicky trigger unless something's actually broken, so you'll be fine. So magwell, you don't really have to clean that, right? Make sure everything's nicely lubed up, especially because this is a bolt action. You want this receiver to be clean, so it won't be any there won't be any grit in there, and you'll have a smooth cocking. And when it comes to the bolt itself, it's kind of a pain to disassemble it. So what I'm trying to say here is, if you have a vise, that will come in handy. So you really need a vise or a second person, second pair of hands to help you take apart this guy. For cleaning, actually, you just want to clean the bolt face, and that's nice and dandy. This is actually the part in here that the outer casing and the inner part. I'm not quite sure about the terminology, do excuse me. But if you need some lubrication, if it feels wonky, just spray some solvent here, do the charging motion a few times, and it will be perfectly fine. If you want to actually remove it, you kind of have to pull on the bolt, and you can see it separating, and it's under spring tension. So what you need is a little wrench here. I have a size 8, and I think this is not metrical, so it's not the perfect tool for that. I don't have any how's it called, imperial tools, like the measurement. But what you kind of have to do is pull this apart, and you can see there's a flat edge on this middle part here, and you have to pull, loosen it with the Allen wrench, and then it will come apart. So you don't have to do that, really. What I can recommend that you sometimes do is, there's this C-ring here that holds the firing pin here. This is the firing pin, and those two prongs here actually hold the cartridge. So this is something you want to clean, mostly the firing pin. And for this, what you can do is you have to remove the C-ring, and you kind of just grab something soft, and you can stick it under that, and it will come right off on one side. Repeat it on the other side. If it feels like it. And now you can see those guys that were being held are just coming out of the bolt assembly. There you go. This is this little C-ring. Second, and in the end, the firing pin. So I'm just gonna tap it, and the firing pin comes out. And here it's actually important, I mean, since it's kind of moving in here, let me figure that out. How did it go in? Like so. Okay, the firing pin is kind of moving in this channel here, and this is the most important thing. You want that firing pin to be able to move freely in here. So if you want to give it a scrubbing every other month or so, make sure to at least do that to the bolt, and get the firing pin out of there. Make sure it freely moves. Give it some cleaning, some love, and it will thank you. So I don't recommend to further disassemble the bolt for a field strip or this is not even a field strip anymore, but for a basic cleaning, right? And for reassembly, first you want to put in the firing pin, and you're going to grab this clamp with the cutouts towards the rear of the bolt assembly. Put it over here and just basically align it like this. And once that's done, you grab the guy with the sharp pointy end, put it on the right side, so if you're looking down on the bolt, the right side here. And with this cutout aligned, you're just going to shove it under here and hold the ring. Click, there you go. And now without really letting go, you want to do the same thing on the left side. And just make sure it moves onto the other. Also here, you have to kind of make sure that the firing pin is in the middle so you can push down on the ring fully, otherwise it won't line up like this. Now, once again, with the cutout pointing outwards, you're just gonna shove it in this channel here while holding the ring, and you will hear this nice click sound once you're done. Might need some convincing if stuff doesn't line up, so you're just gonna grab this little edge here, push it downwards. Kind of hooked somewhere. There you go. Okay, so now you see it's flush in this cutout here. Same on this side. The firing pin is moving freely. Those guys are now under detention from this clip, so this is what will hold the end of the cartridge, and the bolt is back. So now we're going to start with reassembly. First step is we're going to reinstall the trigger. I'm just going to drop it in this hole here. And we're going to start with this screw. You can just screw it in by hand for now into the receiver. If it feels like it, which it doesn't right now. Okay, there we go. Just hand tighten it. We'll tighten it down later completely. So the next step is going to be to get the extractor here into its hole. It has a hole on this side, so you kind of have to put it in there and then turn the whole thing. There you go, like this. And now we're going to grab the magwell, shove it under. So this part is on top of both. I'm bleeding here, excuse me. And now the last part is going to be the mag release. And you're going to shove it in here. And you can see this guy popping out here, and you want to put it between the magwell and this plate here. So just hand tighten down those two guys here. Not necessarily full strength, because you have quite some tolerances here for those holes all to line up. You have the magwell, you have the mag release, and you have this guy here, so they all have to kind of stack on top of each other. So if it's not tightened down, you can still kind of move it, which will help you greatly while you're installing this whole thing. So you're going to grab a screw here with the washer on top, and if everything lines up, which it doesn't quite yet, you can start screwing it in there. Okay, there you go. And you can tighten this down, not completely, just a tiny bit. You're going to do the same thing with the other hole. This one lines up fairly easy because there's only the mag on this plate here. Just don't apply too much force yet. And you're going to attach those two guys here properly. First twist it by hand, and then finish it like this. Okay, other side too. There you go. So once you did that, you can tighten those middle screws down completely. And I don't know about the exact torque specs, but just use common sense here. Okay, there you go. So now this part is back together. We're going to attach it to the stock. Grab the stock, drop the rifle in here, watch out for the trigger, and there you go. So last part is to get this screw in here, which attaches the whole thing to the stock of the rifle. tighten it down. And here, make sure it's nice and tight so there's no wiggling. Okay. Now, just for a short test, we're gonna check if the mag well is all lined up as it should. Mag goes in. Mag latch works. We can remove it. Now the last part is to put the bolt back in. And here you kind of need to, if you have it like here, point the handle 45 degrees upwards, so it will go in, and pull the trigger, align the whole thing, get it in there, close the bolts, and now we're just gonna check if the action feels good. Works perfectly fine. We're gonna test the safety. Come on, pull the trigger. We're gonna pull the trigger. We know the rifle's empty, there's no mag in there. We hear the action working, so our little plinking toy, well, it's not a toy, our little plinking gun is back together, and you're good to go. So have fun.